Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wonderful Human Wednesday. This is such a delight. For this week, I get the chance to sit down with the beautiful, amazing, talented writer, Tammy Greenwood. Today is a really special day as well because it's a release day for Everything Has Happened. And without further ado, please help me welcome Tammy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. I'm just so excited to meet you, and it's
Happy
so
release day.
thank
Happy
you.
release day. How do you
Thank you.
feel about when your baby is birthed into the
Very
world?
weird. I actually I was thinking earlier today, it feels like a birthday. It feels like a birthday in that like I'm getting all, these messages and people are posting on social media and
Oh, yeah.
it's really, it's special and then it ends. And then it's like, okay, then the book is out in the world, your birthday's over and I'm trying to like enjoy it and
Hmm.
and make sure that I'm responding to everybody who's wishing, sending their well wishes. And I launched last night, and so we had our, like a bookstore event, and that was really great too because I get to see people in person that I haven't seen in a long time, and it
Yeah.
was really nice. So yeah, it's sort of a whirlwind, but then it's, then it's not. Then the book is just out in the world, and you wait and hope that people are reading it and enjoying it.
Well, okay. They definitely are because I had the privilege. This is the third book that I've had the privilege of narrating for you. Where do you come up with your ideas for these books?
All different places. I
Mm.
think I was talking about this, and I don't think this is mine. I think I stole this from somewhere, but I remember hearing some writer talking on like on a podcast or something about the idea of like a writer's brain is kind of like this junk drawer, and you pull open the junk drawer and like there's all this stuff that you keep, right? And all these tchotchkes and things. Some are useful, some are ridiculous, and they're things that you love, they're things that you can't get rid of. And what a novelist does is takes those things out of the junk drawer and then makes them work together somehow. And so, what I was saying last night, somebody asked a similar question, was that this book, there were a number of things that sort of came out of the drawer. First was the idea that I wanted to write a mystery. I wanted to write a disappearance story. I had listened to this podcast about Jacob Wetterling, the little boy who went missing in Minnesota in, I think it was 89, somewhere in the late 80s, and his body wasn't discovered until like 2019 or something. It was, many years later.
Wow.
And what struck me in listening to that heartbreaking podcast was there was a man in the town who was a piano teacher. He was a musician, and he was falsely accused, and
Mm.
it destroyed his life. He was became a pariah in the community. He was completely innocent, and it was crushing listening to him talk about how, how this town had turned on him. So that really fascinated me. And then in the same podcast, they were talking about this tip line phone that the family had installed in their home.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, can you imagine? I mean, it's one thing to have a tip line, with the police or whatever, but to have a phone in your home at the end of which could be any number of things. And so that's where it started, the tip line idea. So basically the book opens with Edie, my main character, who is living at home with her mom, who's in the early stages of dementia, and her daughter who is home from college because of the pandemic and never went back, and
Mm.
so sandwiched. And she wakes up during a storm when the tip line phone rings, and it hasn't rung in 40 years, and she picks it up, and the story goes from there. So that was the big plot impetus, was that. But then I had other things. I have never written about the 80s, like being a teenager in the 80s. I'm a total Gen X, person, and there are surprisingly
Girl,
few.
same, same. You were
There's
the soundtrack of this book. I was like, if she doesn't reference Tori Amos, like it's got to come in at some point. It was, please
yeah,
keep going, but
totally.
it was so heartwarming. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a like nostalgic thing right now. I mean, I feel like Gen X has not been represented in fiction.
Mm.
Like our teenhoods just haven't been explored. And I mean, there's a sort of cliched John Hughes, Breakfast Club stuff that everybody
Yeah.
knows. But like I grew up in the 80s. I graduated in 87, and I've never written about that time period. And I was joking last night at my book launch. I'm like, I think there was finally enough distance to look back at it without like weeping, you know? And so I really that was one of my junk drawer items, was just an 80s teenage story. And then the third one was Sylvia Plath, which
Mm,
Edie, my main character, is obsessed with Sylvia Plath. She's trying to get into Smith College, and
yeah.
she's, memorized her poems, and she wants to be a poet. And years ago, I think it was before the pandemic, I had thought I wanted to write a book about Sylvia Plath, like a
Mhm.
historical fiction about her. And so I did this pilgrimage.
I loved it.
I went to all the places that Edie and Trill end up going to in the book. I went
Mm.
and saw where she lived when she was little in Winthrop. I went to Wellesley, and I parked outside of her house. Like, it was really weird. I went to where
I
her
love
dad
it.
was buried. I went to the farm where she worked for a summer. So I did all of that. And then I decided not to write the book. Just, I was kind of overwhelmed with how much information there was available about her,
Mm.
that I was like, what do I have to contribute, to the body of stuff about her? And so then I started writing this book, and I was like, oh, this is where all that Sylvia Plath stuff belongs. So yeah,
I
those were
love it.
those were the three things. And sort of separately, you're like, okay, a disappearance story,
Hmm.
80s with Sylvia Plath, how's this all going to work? And it did. And
And it did.
it did. And I think that's what a writer's job is sort of taking our obsessions and making sense of them somehow through story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Taking our obsessions, making sense of them somehow through story. We could like stop the podcast right there. It was such a mic drop moment. Oh my God. Not only did it all come together, it was, I swear to God, I felt like I was reliving a lot of my teenagehood through the story and through the friendship with Trill and Edie, which turns, I, I don't want to give any spoiler
I
away. I love hearing about authors, how you guys do research for your books, and the fact that you went and on your own pilgrimage is so
did.
perfect. Tell me, like, passions and hobbies. Like, when you travel and do research for your books, is there like a passion or a hobby that you also indulge in while you kind of look
Yeah.
into this stuff?
I'm a photographer too, hobbyist, but a photographer, and I did a lot more photography when my kids were little, because I was really into portraiture and child, like domestic, sort of like Sally Mann was my role model. and
Love.
and since they've gotten older, I've done less, but photography and visual arts for me are really big. And actually, this is a weird coincidence. So that pilgrimage that I took,
Hmm.
it ended at Marblehead, where Children's Island is, which is where the poem from which everything has happened, the title, comes from.
Mm,
And it's the last line of the poem. And so I went to Marblehead, and I sat, and there was this little old couple, like, and I'm like, I just had this like Sylvia Plath day, and the sun was going down. And then I went from there to Salem, Massachusetts, to the
mm,
Peabody Museum, and Sally Mann had an exhibit. And so it was like the most emotional day, because I just
jeez.
followed Sylvia all over. And then I went to the museum. I had never seen Sally Mann's work in person before, and saw it, and I was like crying in the
Yeah.
museum, and just overwhelmed with like connecting with artists in that way, to
Hmm.
me is like magic. And I felt like, I'd walked in Sylvia's shoes and then stepped into, Sally Mann's sort of world. And so
Oh my
I'm
God.
passionate about, artists and art,
Mm.
and knowing the story behind the story. I love researching. You read Rust and Stardust, the other book of mine that you narrated, and that required so much research. And I'm passionate about that. That's like something that I love, that sort of, goes hand in hand with writing. I'm also a knitter.
Yes, a knitter.
I am. My oldest daughter is a
Amazing.
professional ballet dancer, and I make leg warmers and little ballet rompers for
Do
all the dancers.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
you make the leg warmers. Oh
I
my God,
do.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's my little side hustle.
how, and you wrote a book about ballet, yeah?
I did. Still Point is my most recent book before this one, that's about
Yeah.
ballet moms. not at all autobiographical, you know.
I was like, "Write what you know, write what you know." Now, I'm knowing you, I'm sure there was like I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm sure there is it along the same genre of what you normally tap into, which is the mystery thriller kind of
It's a little
darker
bit,
side.
yeah, it's about four moms. There are three of them that have points of view, and then one daughter has a point of view. And it's just the story of what happens to this small California ballet conservatory. Like the girls are training to be professionals when this like French ballet master comes to direct the Nutcracker for them, and he has a scholarship in hand to his home company's school. And so it's just
Mhm.
like, we've called it Big Little Lies meets Dance Moms.
I was about to make a dance mom joke, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, not
yeah.
with ballet. My niece
Yeah.
was a professional ballerina.
I
Yeah.
remember you telling me
Yeah,
that.
we talked about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She's dropped out
Yeah.
of the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and she teaches now these
Oh, that's
adorable,
great.
sweet, yeah, yeah, and is in school for social work. And I was like,
Oh,
I
cool.
would not be surprised if she ends up doing like dance therapy or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
amazing with
No,
the
yeah,
art.
it stays with people their whole lives, I
Yeah.
think. It really
Yeah.
does.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think they're athletes. They're
Yeah.
professional
Oh,
athletes. I mean,
totally.
the training
Totally.
is unreal.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Michaela is 24 and she's already like, okay, when I'm 30, I'm going to need to have my hips replaced. I'm like,
Oh
you're
my
24.
God. Yeah.
You're at the
Yeah.
like prime of your athleticism. And she's like, oh, mom, I'm old.
Oh, and you know what her body is, right? All that pounding and oh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I've seen her dance. I've seen some of the videos and she's breathtaking.
Oh,
So
thank you.
beautiful. Okay, so let me ask you, what are you guys watching or binging on right now?
So we had not watched Schitt's Creek.
Ah,
And, oh, I'm
I know.
so in love with it. I didn't, we had watched like one or two episodes and I was like, it's not for me. It's so over the top. And I'm like, every night I like look forward to it. And yeah, there are a handful of shows that have hit me in the same way. Somebody Somewhere.
Oh
It's the one
boy.
about the woman who goes home when her sister passes and she becomes friends with a guy she'd been in high school with. He was like this nerdy guy.
I
You
think
know what
you're
I'm
right.
talking about?
I
Somebody
remember seeing a
Somewhere.
trailer for that. Is it good?
Yeah. It's so good. And then Better Things, that got me through the pandemic. Better
Oh,
Things with Pamela Adlon and I just you know, I'm all about like the heartwarming but really realistic,
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Schitt's Creek isn't obviously, but
Schitt's Creek is genius. I
it
mean,
is
Catherine
genius.
O'Hare is, I mean, her
Yeah.
accent, her
Oh, I
non-accent
know.
accent is like
Oh, I
stuff
know.
that dreams are. Come on. She's amazing.
Yeah,
And did
she's
you,
so good.
it's a whole family affair. The waitress is the
I know.
daughter.
I
Yeah, I
just found
didn't,
that
I was like, it's
out.
everybody. We
Lila.
gave everyone jobs. I loved it.
Twyla, yeah, yeah.
Twyla.
I had no idea that she was a Levy too, and then I read somebody told me that, and I was like, oh my God, yeah,
They're
it's
so
it's
good.
brilliant. So that's we've been kind of binging that we're on like the last season right now, and we just started
Well,
a couple months
his
ago.
new show is amazing. It's so different from Schitt's Creek. He plays a priest, but not a
Oh,
priest. He's like a minister because
okay.
he's got a boyfriend on the side, but like
Oh,
nobody can
interesting.
know. The whole congregation doesn't know.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I think I would like to know what is like a piece of advice that you've been given anytime in your life that sticks with you to this day.
When you have a big project to tackle, that you just do it in little parts, right? And I think it's like how to eat an elephant or something. I want to say like,
Yes.
no, it's like how do you tackle something that feels so huge is to do it in just little pieces.
Mm,
And I definitely treat my entire life like that. Like my to-do lists are like every little tiny thing and I just parcel it out. I know how much
yeah.
time I have and before something needs to be finished and I just if I'm editing a book I am like okay I promised the my client I'll get this back to them in 2 weeks. What does that look like on a daily basis? And then I break it down in little morsels, right?
Mm,
And it's perfect approach for a novelist because thinking about writing a book is like oh my god I'm going to write some first I'm going to type 300 pages and never
yeah.
mind that it has to be like make sense and have characters and depth and feeling and all these things. And so I break it down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words every day. And I am very religious about my word count quotas. And a lot of people aren't like that. They feel like, they need to write when they're inspired and they might write, 2,000 words one day and no words other days. And I find that I just have to be very militant about my goals because books don't write themselves, unfortunately. Like they,
Get that.
I recommend that to all of my students. I'm like, pick a reasonable word count goal and then look
Mm,
at what that means. So if you have an 80,000 word book and you're doing 80,000 word book you're writing and you write 1,000 words a day, that's only 80 days before you have a
mm.
draft. I mean, that's so doable, right?
So doable. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love the discipline that you talked
yeah, I'm
about.
very
Like just,
disciplined. Yeah.
mm,
And I think, I've learned that just discipline is everything because, if you don't have it, it's really hard to get stuff done, especially big projects like writing a novel.
God, so agree. So agree. So elephant one bite at a time.
I
And then
guess
write a
I didn't know if
novel
it was
one.
elephant or some
No,
yeah.
it's totally an elephant. It's
An
because I
elephant.
just
Okay.
heard this the other
Oh,
day.
you did? Okay.
So would you say one word at a time or one sentence at a time?
Probably one sentence at a time.
I was gonna say too.
One sentence at a
But
time.
I love that so much. It makes everything like doable, right? Because
Yeah.
the inspiration hits. I'm such a sprinter and not a
Yeah.
marathon runner, and there's no coincidence that I was sprinting the day of my crash.
Oh,
And I literally have learned through recovering from that the marathon is where it's at. It's
yeah.
just
And
one
that for the
foot in.
long haul. Yeah. And another piece of advice, and I don't know if anybody gave this to me, but I offer it up all the time, is that you're making a writing life and you're
Mhm.
creating a body of work. I think so many people get hung up on like, I've got to write this one book and, this
Yeah.
is it, and they're hanging
It's gonna
everything
change
on
my
that.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, and realistically, if you're a writer, you're not going to stop writing after one
Mm,
book. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like I have some books that, I feel amazing about and I'm proud of and I love, and other books that really, I have doubts about or,
mm.
but I've over 20, I don't even know, 27 years of publishing,
Wow.
there's I'm building a body of work. And when I'm gone, that body of work will exist and it will represent me as an artist and as a writer and me as a person for, decades of time. And that to me is, I don't know what being a writer is.
100%
Yeah.
agree. I mean, yeah, it's there after you're gone.
Yeah.
Your stories are still
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dreaded two-letter topic, AI, what in your industry has been kind of helpful, question mark, or just you need to just what's your message about it for yourself and maybe for your students?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm so glad I don't teach at university anymore. I have a
Mm,
friend who's a professor, and I wouldn't want to do it. I think lines are so blurry right now about how
mm,
much is okay to use and what is okay, what is not okay. I'm very, very opposed to generative AI. I just
yeah.
anything that is trying to create, and as somebody whose work has been pirated by, Anthropic has this huge class action lawsuit that we
Oh my
won,
God.
because
You
13 of
were
my
in on that?
13 of my novels were stolen. And so I'm like, I am a AI basically, right?
Oh
My
my
work trained,
God.
my work trained AI. But
Holy
yeah,
cow, you guys won. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. And generative AI to me is really icky and
Mhm.
strange. I mean, I think, it's so integrated into our browsers and things now that I've found, for like I'll research something and I think it's utilizing that technology. And I don't feel, I mean, obviously the environmental concerns I have are huge
Yeah.
about the data centers, but ethically, research to me, it's like, well, that's really cool that I could, ask a question about something that I need to know as I'm writing that doesn't is not, it's not generating any prose, but it's answering a question that I have about the world or about
Mhm.
history or something. But I try to just not.
Yeah,
I try to just not. It makes me really creeped out. Like I
yeah,
just, and
me
then there's
too.
the alternatively, I think writers are a little bit afraid of being called out for using AI when they're not using AI. I
Correct.
mean, there's the danger that we don't know what's real anymore in many aspects of our culture. And so we have to figure out, how to discern what is truth and what is human and what is fiction. And, it's just blurry. We're all just kind of, I think, feel like we've been tossed in the water and are just trying to figure out how to stay afloat and how to navigate this because it's really crazy. It's
It's
really,
really it's scary and crazy, and I'm glad to hear you, talk about it. That is insane that they stole 13 of your books, and
oh
then
yeah,
what were they
every
doing?
writer I
Writing?
know. Every writer I know, there's something like 500,000 works that were stolen. Yeah, it's a $1.4 billion settlement or something like that.
Wow, wow. Well, I mean, my God, that's your livelihood.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
lit
Yeah,
but, it's more than that.
yeah, it's more than that.
It's your art, it's your soul.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
the
who you
compensation,
are.
once it's all divided up, is gonna be,
Yeah,
because the publishers will get portions and, it's very minuscule amount of
yeah.
compensation, but the message is clear, right? The
That's
message
yeah.
that's important is that the message is that you can't do that. You can't, steal work and train robots and I don't know. It's very, very odd.
Having been able to tell 3 of your stories, I definitely don't believe a robot could come up with the depth and the character development. I mean, maybe because it researched from your writing, it's just
Yeah.
mimicking, which is infuriating to me. It's infuriating. And we have it in our own industry,
Oh, I was gonna say, you must be grappling with that too. I've heard like, you see this and it's like this is an AI song and the voice sounds so human and
well, because people sell their voices to the
yeah.
companies, and so
Oh,
the robots are now being programmed with real voices, and
oh,
it's really scary because the more it sounds human,
mhm.
the more I'm like, "Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
taking over. It's gonna" but then
Mhm.
I'm like, "All right, calm down, calm
I think
down."
I mean, I really do feel like there's going to be a pendulum swing and we're going to react to this in a way that maybe this is going to send us back to, back to humanity. I mean, that's my hope is that
Me too.
we're all going to be craving reality. I
Yeah.
did an interview with my hometown newspaper a couple days ago and it came out today and there was a little tiny error. It was nothing, it was just a little tiny error and I was back and forth with the reporter. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's not a big deal." And then I'm like, "I would rather there be a little human error
Thank
than
you.
for this to be written by AI. I know that
That's
this
it.
was written by this
Yeah.
is human." And I think we're all going to crave that. And a lot of I mean, I think younger, like Gen Z kids are kind of getting rid of some technology and things as a way to, there's a lot of nostalgia for 80s, 90s right now because we didn't have this stuff,
Give me a phone with a cord any
Yeah.
day and
Yeah.
let me like wrap it through the kitchen door
Yeah.
and try to talk to
In the
Jimmy.
closet.
I'm on the phone, right? Sharing it with 7 other siblings. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That is I just a simpler time, a
Mhm.
time when you couldn't make a phone call till you got home and had a
Yeah.
phone to make a phone call. Like
It was really,
simple things like
and that
that.
plays it was fun writing this mystery when there was no technology.
Ah,
I mean, the phone plays a huge role. The phone call from mom on the day that Charlie goes missing,
yeah.
that's like everything pivots on this lack of technology and communication and expectations and promises and all those things that we don't have anymore, because we have a phone in our hand all the time.
Yeah. Instant gratification, instant results. Yeah, AI. Like great, you're great, but it's I don't know. Whatever happened to remember when we went to the library and we'd pull out those cards and we had to
I like,
like card catalog and go look up the book and like have to go through every I love that
yeah,
shit. That was like a treasure hunt. And
yeah,
I just
yeah,
like
totally.
I miss that. I lived in the library. I loved books. All
Yeah.
I did was read. And I miss that stuff. And I miss that the generation that's coming up now isn't getting access to that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Technology can be amazing and incredible, but like where we are now, I feel like we're just moving so far away from each other.
Yeah.
And I think part of doing this podcast is just getting back to like
Yeah.
talking
Talking
to people I
face to
love
face.
and that are amazing. And yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to have a conversation.
It's good. It's wonderful. I mean, I really,
Yeah.
yeah, we all crave that, you know. I mean, I teach via Zoom now mostly. And last
Nice.
night for my launch, I had sent out an email to all of my students, former and present, and, you know, a whole bunch showed up. And I'm like, I haven't seen you. Like, oh, or I've
Oh.
never met you. And you're like so tiny. Or,
Oh.
you know, I had no idea you were so tall because you're just a little box on my computer every week, you know.
It's like meeting a celebrity, right? In
I
real
know.
life. I'm meeting you in real
It
life.
is. It totally feels
Oh,
like that. But
I
yeah, it's
love
something
that.
special about that, you know.
I'm just going to say, please don't stop telling stories.
Oh,
You
thank you.
are one of my favorite authors, and Rust and Stardust, Finding Lucy, and now everything has happened. It just remarkable,
Well, thank you.
remarkable.
Thank you.
And I definitely agree with you. Like today is a big day, lots of attention,
Yeah.
awesomeness. You deserve everything that's coming. And then it gets quiet again, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're any less amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Promise.
I
That
appreciate
is the
it.
truth.
And I can't wait
Absolutely.
to listen to your rendition of the book.
Oh, I hope it's good.
It
I'm
will
always like,
be.
oh, I
It
hope
will
the
be.
author's happy.
It will be. I was so excited when I was like, hey, could we
No.
get it to Rez instead?
Are you kidding me? I was like, and is that your first? That's my first time recording for Spotify.
This is my first Spotify audiobook
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were so nice.
Oh,
They
good,
were
good.
really
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, they were very like, you know, I never know. You know, they sent me some links to, and I was like, wait a minute, I want to see if Rez is available. I mean,
For
they were
you?
great too, but you know, I was like, it's just, yeah, when there's an audiobook narrator who just gets you and knows,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, it's a match. It's a good
Well,
match.
now that I know we were teenagers in the 80s, I
Yes,
understand why. But I
yes.
will tell you this, and I know that I maybe wrote it in an email, but Rust and Stardust portraying the kidnapper
Mm,
and the girl being kidnapped changed my whole journey as an audiobook narrator because up to that point I knew what I was doing was important, and then to be thrust into a scene like that, I understood kind of on a cellular level
mm,
how intense storytelling can be, and also what an amazing writer you are
mm.
because the character development, you made my job like I don't want to say effortless, but pretty effortless because when you write characters as rich as you do, I mean, I prep, I do my work, and then I come into the studio and it's just like a freaking joy.
Well, I told this story at my launch last night because we were talking. Somebody asked, is there going to be an audiobook and when's it going to be available? And I said, oh, yes. And then I told the story that sounds so weird, but I remember listening to you reading Rust and Stardust, and I was driving. I was on a long drive by myself, and I was like weeping, and I made me completely forget that I'd written the book. I mean, it felt like you elevated it to a different
Oh,
level. It was a very strange experience for me because it stopped being my story. It's just
oh
stopped
my
being my
gosh.
story, you know? And I was like, wow, that's a gifted actress who can, you know, portray these characters in a way that made them, you know, transcending the words on the page. I mean, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm not blowing smoke.
No, it's one of the greatest compliments I've ever received. And also like, yeah, dream team. We're the dream team here. Anytime, like I said, but
Awesome. Awesome.
having done this book and today being the release day of it, just such huge
Thank
congratulations. And I
you.
hope
Thank
you
you.
can feel the hug coming
I can.
through the Zoom,
I can.
through the
I can.
riverside.